Welcome to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Ray Robinson and friends. Seen on the internet 24 hours, 7 days a week. To view, please go to flinttalkradio.com and scroll down to the In My Opinion Show to view your latest in internet television. The In My Opinion Show can also be seen on Detroit, Michigan Comcast Cable Channel 68 at various times. Consult your community calendar. The In My Opinion Show is also viewed on Flint Comcast Cable Channel 17 every Saturday at 6. We have a very wonderful show in store for our millions of viewers worldwide, but first I want to introduce my talented co-host, Miss Denise Smith-Allen.
How you doing, Ronald?
Great. And we have Mr. Henry Hatter.
Hi, Ronald.
Hey.
Denise.
All right. Governor Snyder, the bully. Emergency manager law repeal kept off the November 2012 ballot. Let's hope it is overruled by the Michigan Court of Appeals. Board splits on party lines. I'm glad that I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but an independent. That decision to deny the people's wishes to put PA4, otherwise known as the Emergency Manager Act, on the November ballot is not democracy, but a racist power play by the party that's in charge at this time in Lansing. The Constitution says by the people, for the people. The reason I say racist is because the only cities and school boards around the state of Michigan being taken over by the emergency managers are African-American cities and school boards. Flint, Michigan, Pontiac, Michigan, Ecorse, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, Highland Park, Michigan, Muskegon Heights, Michigan, Benton Harbor, Michigan. The year-old emergency manager law grants a nearly unlimited power to emergency managers to overrule elected officials and toss out union contracts, sell city and school assets. There are almost 100 other cities and school boards around the state of Michigan that are non-performing and in financial distress, but because they are white, they get a pass. Racism at its ugliness. I'm sure in the near future we will witness a few white school boards and cities being taken over by emergency managers, but it would only be a smoke and mirrors and a sham by Snyder and his Republican cohorts to justify their poor leadership skills. Public Act 4 replaces Public Act 72 of 1990, which Republicans who control the House and Senate and Governor Rick Snyder claimed did not give enough power to emergency managers. Emergency managers are not elected by the people, but appointed by a one-man rule, which I categorize as a dictator. A dictator, as described by Webster Dictionary, is a person who rules with total authority and often in cruel and in brutal manners. Let's hope that Governor Snyder, the present dictator, is a one-time governor. He has single-handedly destroyed millions of people's lives and destroyed any chance that the state of Michigan can regain any respectability on the national and world stage with his negative leadership. People rebel against dictators, tyrants, and bullies. To deny a chance for the people of Michigan to decide if they want an emergency manager to take over their cities and school boards because of a print font lettering size on the ballot is preposterous. Let the people, let the electorate decide. Let's go with you, Mr. Hatter, first. What's your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Ron, you said one thing that I believe to be divisive. You said racist policies in Lansing that affect large communities, basically metropolis, where you have a large concentration of African Americans and other ethnic people. And the governor now directs unfavorable policies in dealing with their fiscal responsibilities, where they cannot balance the budget. The Michigan constitutions require that all communities, all municipalities, including school boards, balance the budget. It may even require you to balance your checkbook.
And I do.
Okay. Now you get the point.
But
So,
if Lansing would give Detroit the money that Lansing owes Detroit, Detroit wouldn't be having this problem.
now
this
you
issue.
can't blame that on the governor.
Sure it can.
What year was that?
Regardless, the contract it was already decided, okay, that the Lansing owes Detroit 220-some million plus probably close to 300 million now if you kick in interest.
Not
all right?
even little kids would believe that, Ron.
But that's a fact. That's true.
That-
okay. I expect that from a Republican. Okay?
No, it has nothing to do with Republican politics,
Okay.
but it has a lot to do with what the legal framework of what government requires us to do. It requires all people to make tough decisions, to lay people off, to displace people, to allow some people to go without certain services.
Well, then there ought to be emergency manager. There ought to be
There's
emergency
no
manager
room
in
in there for
Lansing.
that.
There ought to be an emergency manager in Lansing because they have not balanced their books. They're borrowing money from China.
That's how they balance it. But they don't leave the people holding
And we
Yes,
discussed
that.
this before.
But how is balancing the budget by borrowing money from another country? How is that balancing the budget?
Well, it means that what you have on the debit side is balanced by what you have on the credit side.
But you're creating more debt.
Yeah.
You're creating more debt. And so all we're doing is playing a numbers game. What we're doing is
Detroit
moving money
yeah.
from one pile over
If
to the
Detroit would
next.
go out and borrow the money and figure out how to pay it back, because they can't expect for people around the state to pay it back. It's their responsibility. They got to cut services or raise taxes or something, but they got to balance the budget.
But they're doing both.
Well,
They're doing
they're
both.
not doing
Think about what's going on in Genesee County, Flint, Michigan, for example.
Okay, that's a good example.
We have right now under this emergency manager, we have him going in, looking at union contracts, laying people off,
Yes.
and then increasing the amount of money people have to pay for trash removal and for water. They've already been taxed enough. They already are paying more than their fair share. And now you're saying you're not only going to lay off people, but you're also going to increase the amount of money that people have to pay. And you mostly know that those people who haven't left Flint, Michigan, are either your seniors or people who have invested so much in this community they can't leave. And then we have another element that's not prepared financially or any other way. So they're wreaking havoc. So, I mean, there's something inherently wrong with this whole process. And for the canvassers to come up with that crap about a font size is a reason for not allowing this to be placed on the ballot. Now, that's the real smoke screen, in my opinion.
Well, here's another thing, and I'm glad you brought that up about the rising prices in water and paying for services and so on and so forth. The system must survive at any cost. The system itself. The system that allows us to live in a social network. Because we all live in a social setting that's governed by laws. And we can't let that fall apart. It's anarchy. It's anarchy then. So, now what governments have to do, in government, you have the public trust in what you do. That's why they elected you. So, that means the public expects for you to do whatever's necessary to keep a stable and secure community. Now, if you don't have the money to run or operate the city, you must do one of two things. You must raise taxes or you must cut services. One or the other, but you must have a balanced book.
But you just did both. In this instance, when we talk about Flint, you've done both.
Oh, now here's the other point. We have lost a lot of industry. We have lost people. Now, what do you think is left behind? Vacant buildings. Buildings that don't pay taxes. Large industries that don't provide incomes, don't provide jobs. Now, what that sums up to is that we have overcapacity in our city. That means you got more buildings than you receive income from.
Right.
You've lost industry. The lack of income. You're becoming poor and poor and poor, okay, through that process. The people who remain behind can't expect those services to be delivered. You have to cut back someplace, or you have to raise taxes. And that is the function of governments. That's the function of the people in the city of Flint, Clio,
Henry,
Goodrich,
I hear you.
Detroit. Now let me finish. Now, while I'm on the roll, and I hope our audience is understanding this, because the kids won't have to take political science if they listen to this,
Oh,
right?
boy.
Because this is in truth reality.
Yeah.
These are the hard things that we got to deal with, and it's a way of us understanding our own financial dilemma and situation. It's not always race. It's just the tough things that we have to do.
But see, I disagree with you there, Mr. Hatter, on that count. The state of Michigan has imposed emergency managers on these cities that are predominantly African American. All right, the leadership is primarily African American, but there's almost 100 and some other school districts and cities around the state of Michigan, all right, that are white. Okay, you can't sit here and tell me that their finances isn't underwater. All right, but not one of them other cities, all right, have an emergency manager. All right, I know a couple of managers at Ryder and U-Haul. Okay. And they can't keep enough trucks in Michigan, all right, because people are leaving, all right, heading south, all right. Flint is in terrible shape, all right. I love this city, all right, and I said this before, it's my adopted city because I lived here for a number of years, all right. And I hate to see the devastation that's taking place, all right? As you alluded to, the vacant buildings, all right, the homes, all right, the burned out shells, over here on Dort Highway, that once vibrant factory, all right, is now just a cement slab, all right, and other places have in terms of workforce have diminished, all right? It's just, and I'm not trying to play the race card. I'm just telling you like it is.
But
right?
races will always be with
okay.
us.
Okay.
Yeah.
The racial hatred and stuff. I don't.
It's
mean
not racial. It's not racial hatred.
Yeah, but I don't mean to diminish that at all.
I have European friends.
Yeah. Okay.
African American friends, Arab friends, Jewish friends. From all groups.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
We all do. Thank you.
But the bottom line is what I see here. This is my opinion. All right, that Snyder is no good for the state of Michigan, plain and simple. And again, I hope he's a one-term governor. All right. I think my 10-year-old would be a better governor than him.
Okay, but one
right.
of the things I'd like to say, Ron, in reference to what you're speaking about. These urban areas that are predominantly African American, what I see, these are being used as test cases to see how effective they're going to be, and quote unquote getting the financial underpinnings in tow. And if they prove effective, okay, I believe that they will use them across the state. Otherwise, there'll be an additional lawsuit about that disparity. Okay, I mean, there's probably lawsuits already in the works.
There's several.
But what I'm saying, because then this would be like a blatant situation. But what I'm saying right now, I see it as a test case.
The discriminatory practice.
Not just discriminatory practices, but I see it as a way, because typically when we're dealing with situations from a financial standpoint, we have a lot of folks that will speak and talk and say, and but they won't do.
Exactly.
Okay, and so when you have people who are not coming to the forefront to try to counter this, okay, and like I said, in these urban settings, they know what pretty much they can get away with, and that's what this is, a test case. And to see how this thing plays out, and once it plays out, either way it goes, then they'll be able to expand the net if you will. They're going to do it. They're going to do it in these other cities. That's my belief. Okay. That's
well, I also
my
think that they thought that they could waltz into Detroit too, and take over. But I think that they were rudely awoke. All right, because Detroit wasn't having that mess.
No, because
all right, and I wish these other cities would rebel against those actions too. And any other city, I don't care if it's a white city or a Hispanic city or whatever. I hope they rebel against this.
The jury is still out on Detroit.
All right,
on all 10 cities taken over, the jury's still out. And Ron, something has to give. And, I don't think that communities run by African Americans who inherit a city where industry's leaving it, where population is leaving it, is necessarily the target of this legislation.
Sure it is. Well, sure it is. Because let me tell you something. Traditionally, white folks think they got a better idea. All right, that's just the way it has been all my life. White folks think they got a better idea. They can do shit better than anybody else. All right.
Okay, but let me finish.
You know I'm telling the truth,
anyway. You know.
Okay, well, I'm going to respond to that in a minute.
Well,
I'll respond.
Here, I just wanted to make my point here that it's not the mayor's fault here that General Motors left town, but the population left, that we lost business. That our school system is defunct, that our neighborhoods are run down. That was an inherited.
Well, then Lansing should take that into consideration. All right, all right. The matching dollars from Lansing stops flowing.
Yeah.
All right.
But those are revenue sharing dollars, and they don't have the revenue anymore. We don't collect it from these places that were businesses, and that were. Institutions that were taxed, that poured money into Lansing coffers. So there are tremendous deficits all over. We're a nation in decline.
Sure.
We need to learn to live with that. And so we need to cut back on services. Things are not going to be the way they were in the 70s or the 60s. We need to learn to live with less, and we need to accept that.
Well, I don't have a problem with that, but let's show a little even-handedness here. You know what I mean?
But Ron,
here's my point, and I want to make this point really quickly, because we speak about Lansing because we know that Lansing is the capital, but Detroit is really the capital, if you get my drift, okay? And I think that right now they're playing politics like they usually play, not necessarily under financial management, but yet financial management, but they have to be very careful on how they play this thing out, because then you've got folks that are ready to act out.
They're going to act out.
Well, but I'm saying, and we're talking about, violence. I'm not either. I'm not. I'm just what I'm saying.
Detroit will act out, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they're very concerned about, okay, because they don't want to see any type of acting out, if you will, because again, in the long run, that is not going to help. It's not going to help, but it'll be more destructive and more divisive. But that's why, like I say, they have to play this thing out very carefully, walk on eggshells, present the information in such a way that is palatable, because if it's not, then you've got that situation that I'm describing.
But you got people who are leaders in those cities who are politicizing those arguments. They know that they need to raise taxes. The people who live in Detroit and Wayne County know, in order to solve that problem, they have to step forward with some kind of a ballot initiative and be willing to pay more taxes to submit the losses of revenue in Detroit. People know that. The people throughout the state of Michigan know that the school districts throughout the state need more money. They because they can read numbers, but they will do nothing.
But they've done something, because they've already taxed people's pensions.
Well,
you know what I'm saying. But they're doing. We're talking about now the seniors, people who have put in X number of years at General Motors.
They benefited, though.
They benefited.
And we also pay their taxes.
They pay their taxes all along, and then the American dream as we know it is no more.
It's been gone a long time.
Now this year, if you hit 65, all right, your retirement is taxed. All right. Yeah. See what people don't understand. Millions of viewers out there. All right. I mean, I get emotional about this, but the bottom line is don't be fooled by what's happening in Detroit. All right. It's not really about Detroit being in financial distress. Lansing probably will. All right. I hope not take over Detroit, but it's about the water. It's about the water in Detroit. All right. All this other shit that you hear about, all it is smoke and mirrors. All right. They're not telling you the truth. It's about the water, which amounts to billions and billions and billions of dollars. Keep that in mind out there.
But Ron, I mean, we had to cut this year $3.2 million out of our school budget.
Okay.
Okay? That means by the year 2014 we would be broke if we didn't. Completely broke. We'd have to borrow money. And we may be able, they may put a financial manager in our school district if we don't balance the books. Okay. We have taken steps that we would never have a financial manager. We will cut and cut to the bone until the people throw us out of office. Okay? But not a financial manager. School districts typically are local controlled. You don't want a financial manager. In cities, that may not be as important. But in small communities, they don't want intrusion from the outside.
And you think large cities do?
Well, they seem to...
No. I know. They don't want it.
They don't fight as hard against it as people on the outside, the farmers and stuff.
Okay, but I also say that there's some collusion going on in terms of how that stuff is being reported out. Because I can guarantee you, if, as you say, in the community where you're living, if suddenly there was some discussion at the height of, what you're dealing with as far as the loss of revenue, if that became an issue in the 6 o'clock news or on the front page of the Journal, I think there would be some reaction. But
right now, there's a reaction.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but it's not there. But it's not there. But it's not there because the focal point right now seems to be Flint.
Well,
it is. I mean, when you put this kind of information in front of people every single day, they're being bombarded with this information, and already we're afraid. Remember, we've had other discussions about that. We're fearful about the loss of revenue, the loss of resources. Okay, people controlling our lives and things of that nature, but you're being bombarded with this stuff constantly.
People know that what happens to Flint also happens in these other communities. They have to learn to live with that. General Motors is gone.
Yes.
Big industry is gone. The people out around the country, because Flint don't have big industry, their opportunities for employment are gone. And they realize that. They have to learn to live with less because they're the first ones that feel the impact because they have less people working in this concentrated service area of automobile of the industry. You don't have the per capita number of people in the other communities that you have here concentrated in a central city.
Okay, but let's go back to the original discussion, whereas we had the governor who is going out and made some kind of a deal, so to speak, with a foreign country to generate the revenue that he needs to, quote-unquote, balance the books. Eventually, that person's not going to be in office, and still the state of Michigan is going to be strapped with being responsible for paying that debt.
So what the governor's done is taking the money from us. He's taking the money from pensions. He's taking it from schools, from teachers, from everywhere he can get money. That's what he's done. He's made a lot of people mad. He's made a lot of people mad. But what else can he do? He must do what you have to do to maintain stability in government.
Well, see, he doesn't understand the dynamics of people. He's had money, you know what I mean, probably all his life. He doesn't understand, the struggles that ordinary citizens have to deal with, on a daily basis. All right? Do you choose from medicine, all right, or food? Okay? Do you pay your light bill or do you buy food? Do you pay your gas bill, or do you buy food or medicine? All right.
I know that's a tough, and I know there are people like that.
Mm-hmm.
But all I can say to you is that first of all, we have to balance the budget and start all over.
Right. So one of the ways in which the budget has been balanced is you take people who are in need, those that are receiving Department of Human Services benefits, and you cut them. And you take them off of the rolls. And then you get a lawsuit, which costs the state more money, and then you put them back on the rolls.
Then you go in and take them from the senior citizens, those same benefits. You take them from people who work for General Motors.
No, hell no.
But that's what they're doing. See, but he's doing that.
For the same reason.
Right,
Because
he's doing
if you take
it.
them from the poor, you got to take them from the rich. Or from the
But he doesn't. He's not taking them from the rich.
Well, he
it's all
sure
about
has.
the poor. It's about the poor.
The working poor. The working
people who work for General Motors
poor.
was not poor. They were in the
Okay.
top 10% of the highest wage earners in
That
the
was
world.
then.
That was
I've
then.
heard you say that before.
Yeah,
You know, that was
then.
in the
This is
past.
now.
All right.
And I say, if you
Okay.
take it from the poor, you take it from the people who work for GM.
You take it from everybody.
Yeah,
all
take it
right?
from everybody.
Now I would, I wouldn't probably
Please shut us off.
be so irate if it was equal across the board, but it's not. All right.
Well, we was trying.
Yeah, we were trying. This has been a great conversation, and I hope our audience out there enjoyed, our dialogues, et cetera, et cetera. Hope you learned something too. Remember, Detroit, it's all about your water. Don't let the state of Michigan, Governor, whoever his name is.
Snyder.
Oh, okay. I forgot him already. All right, just like I forgot that other one that was. Anyway, this is Ronald Barry Robbins for the In My Opinion show. I want to thank our technical staff and you, our viewers out there by the millions. All right. I want to thank Miss Denise Smith Allen, Mr. Henry Hatter, and until next time, stay focused.